Call the meeting to order. The first is to approve the minutes of December 14th. That's in our agenda. We do not have the January 23rd minutes in the packet, so they'll get approved next month. So I need a motion to approve the minutes of December 14, 2023. Camille's one and Nate's second. Any changes, clarifications, feedback?
I think we already approved these
No,
at the last meeting.
not the 14th. Pretty sure we did.
It's on the agenda.
Was it?
Last month, yes.
Oh. Okay, we'll table that one then.
Because you approved
We don't need to vote on
at a
it.
prior meeting.
All right.
At a prior meeting.
Double approved.
Yeah.
I missed that. Thanks, Rob. Next is the informational items, the workforce report. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Sorrell.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Monthly workforce report is on page 3 of the packet. The top third will show period 1 activity, and it will compare period 1 of last year to period 1 of this year, applicants versus hires. For the listening audience, as I say every month, new hires in January don't automatically translate to applicants or positions posted in the month of January, because sometimes the recruitment process takes longer than a month. Middle of the page is workforce demographics. Chief DEI Officer Allen is here if you want to have him expand upon that or ask him any questions. And then bottom third are separations for the period. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Okay. With that, we will move into the vacancy report.
Vacancy reports on the following page in the packet. Just in case we need that to bring order to the body at any point in time. So you'll see on page 4 of the packet, we currently have, looks like 84.6 vacant positions across the offices and departments that you see in the report. Angela or myself will be happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the committee on this report? Seeing none, we'll move to the liability and workers' comp report.
That's page 5 of your packet. It's activity through January 31st of this year. You will note that whether it be liability claims or work comp claims, we don't have any open in period 1 of 24. So everything is really more reflective of the end of the calendar year of 23. Just as a highlight, liability claims, we had 12 filed last year. Only one of them is still active. It has a pretty small exposure by cost. Work comp side, we had 49 work comp claims filed last year, and 8 of those are still active. But overall, the lowest that we've had in a number of years in terms of claims filed. The paid date for those claims is a little bit above average, but not too far out of place. And then we still have obviously those 8 claims that are remaining, and the 6 from 2022 that have reserve remaining for those. Angela or I would be happy to try and answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the committee on this report? Liabilities. Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. Seeing none, we will move to our action item, resolutions, and I need a motion to set the salaries of the circuit clerk and coroner's office. Dr. Blair and Mr. Renaud. All right. With that, you got the details in your packet. I will, since this is an action that's not brought forward by the administration, it's brought forward by the board. So I'm not going to ask the administration to present it because it's not their request. So not to repeat everything that's written here, it is responsibility of the board to set the salaries of the upcoming positions in election. There's a 180-day timeline. We decided this year, before the election, which would have been May, thought we'd pull it forward and get the process moving, no reason to wait till May. So the committee has worked together really well as far as looking at the data, working through it. You'll see there's a couple changes that were made. One of the changes was made was we had a, I want to get the right term, annual service payment that was implemented back a few years in 2016. The decision was to remove the annual service payment as a separate line item and put it into the salary. So unless there's anyone that has a hard reason why we should keep it separate, recommendations to roll that into the salary, not have a separate line item. It counts for all of the other compensation benefit data anyway. It's not reducing compensation, it's not adjusting or changing any benefits for that position. The other comment I'll make was these two offices have been unfortunate that they have gone since 2015 without any raises. They've gone through 3 cycles of no raises from the standpoint of we had budget issues and challenges. We came into COVID, they got hit again. So the request that's put out here in year 1 is to bring them up to a comparable salary as to the other elected positions at the county that we set salaries for. To do that, that's a 17% increase. So it is a large number. But again, at the same point, those 2 positions have not been afforded the ability to have that increase over the last 8 years. So they've gone 8 years without any raise. And then year 2, year 3, and year 4 are 2% increases for those positions. With that, I'm going to pause and ask the committee for feedback, questions, any comments. Phelan.
I'd just like to start by saying that I had a lot of conversations around this. I'm an advocate for adjusting these wages because I think they have sat stagnant for some time and they're deserved. But I would share with the rest of the board what I've shared with a couple board members, saying yourself included, that I think we need to consider paying different rates for positions. I'm not sure I'm a fan of just setting all salaries at the same rate. I know that creates challenges because there's a lot of controversy on how do you do that, how do you do it fairly. But I would suggest that we continue to explore that and possibly make that adjustment in the future.
Good input. Jennifer?
Following up on that comment, that's something you and I discussed, and I think now is the time to start working on that in some fashion so that the groundwork is there when the cycle rolls around next time, that we can, and it will sooner with others as well, so that we can work to identify what that individual role should pay, not what they together should be at.
Okay. Good comments.
I think as a committee, that's something we should start working on sooner rather than later, because we'll be in this boat soon again.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Herrick, any comments? You're looking, we've had some discussion. I don't know if you want to share anything.
Yeah, I've maintained in my comments to you is that equal is easy. Yeah, let's just make them equal because it seems to avoid conflict and we move on. But in the long run, I would agree with these 2 board members that it's a bad deal in terms of what's required for the different positions. That's why I requested the actual job descriptions to see if I could at least somehow see if there were some differences, and I think I arrived at the conclusion that whatever I would have suggested for a difference was mitigated by some other aspect of the job description. So I've arrived at, in this case, equal is okay, but I would agree with both of those board members that it's not the end-all solution.
Okay. Your agreement?
I know Steve and I looked at a bunch of data as we were looking at these numbers, and the problem is comparable data, looking at number of employees, looking at schedules, things like that. It's really hard to determine what's the correct amount. And so if we start now, maybe we can find that data or find comparables that help us make that decision. But it's not an easy one.
Mr. Renaud, you had this committee prior.
And you
Wait
look,
till you-
you look at lots of data too.
Mr. Renaud was a data guy 2 years ago at this. Just ask if you have any additional experience or comments you'd like to share. I think we're all in agreement on the concept, it's the how-to.
I agree with everybody else, and I went down that path, and it's not an easy path to go down. I mean, there's really no comparables. We tried to do a study to try to figure out what that would be, and when it came down to it, we entered what those jobs do into the hay system, and it spit out a number, and we kind of compared that to where, or if they were actual employees of the county, where that might be comparable. So they kind of fell right where they were. So I don't know. It's hard. It's how much time and energy do you invest in something that it come out that they all should make about the same amount anyway. I don't know. I would support anybody, support you taking that endeavor on. It's just a hard one to go on.
Okay, no, appreciate the notes. Mr. Phelan, you had additional comments?
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and I agree with what you're saying, Rob, but I would say we invest the time. I mean, these are positions held in the county. I think it's important we ensure that a qualified candidate comes into that position. So we should, in my opinion, invest as much time as needed to make sure that we're compensating that fairly.
Okay. I mean, Mr. Elsasser?
Mr. Freeland, how do we, how can we be reassured that we're going to have a qualified candidate, because there are no requirements, other than, I think, the sheriff, I think you have to be
State's attorney.
and the state's attorney, right? And so I think of the treasurer's department, and I'm not going to bring up Nicole, but 25 years ago, when I first came on the board, we had a treasurer that, and he was actually a member of my party, but he didn't do a very good job of investing our money. It was not good. And so, then that job's important, because there's a lot of money laying around throughout the year. And what they do with that is very important. And so, I mean, I think Nicole's doing a good job now, but so how can we get somebody in there that's qualified? I mean, the guy that was in there didn't do a very good job. I don't mean to put him down. I don't think he's even alive anymore.
I think that's a question you should ask your party.
Well, it could be
How to
either.
generate qualified candidates.
It could be
I
in
mean,
either party.
That goes back to branding. As an organization, if we're branding ourselves well, we're going to have knowledge to the community that these positions exist.
Right.
But I mean, I'd go back and ask your party chair, what are they doing to make sure qualified people are going to these seats?
I ask that
Were
all
you
the
saying
time.
you didn't want the financial reimbursement to be deterrent from the qualified,
Correct.
rather than the recruitment?
Because I know candidates that have come on, or not candidates, but the people that have come into these positions, that their resume would not have met qualifications at all. And they didn't do a very good job initially, but they've done a really good job since then.
When we don't
I'm not talking
compensate-
about you, Jimmy.
I didn't think so, Brian.
I mean, I promise you. But they're doing a really good job now, so
If you look at comparative counties, if they're paying a higher wage, we're going to lose qualified people. And it's not unheard of for people to move to find positions, whether they're elected or not.
no, I'm talking about the actual elected position. Yeah, I mean, we're losing, the sheriff has a huge task in order to retain all of his people from going to other counties, and Jamie has the same challenge, I'm sure, and all of our electeds do. So we're just talking about electeds now.
Can I speak? Can I address what you're saying, Brian? I think the sheriff could agree. We're succession planning as we are right now, right? So I'm unopposed for my next term, but I don't know what the next term's gonna look like for me. So I'm trying to build particular staff within my office that when I do depart, it would be an easy appointment for that person to then to run and be marketable for the position. And I think that's important to say when you look at the position as a whole. What is the sheriff created at the sheriff's department that Aswell didn't create, that McCoy didn't create? What have I created that John didn't create, that Dan Hines didn't create? And what we're building in our people is really a benchmark standard for what we put out to the community. And I think that's important. And I think succession planning is extremely important, which is what I'm trying to do in my staff right now by continuing education, only hiring qualified medical professionals to do the death investigation, which is the benchmark standard across the U.S. Not Illinois, but the U.S. as a whole. So I think that effort is duly noted for us when we look ahead at elections. To Danny's point.
And I do appreciate that because they always say behind every good leader is a person, you know, which will pick out someone to follow them, you know, when they retire.
Well, I think this is good discussion and good input. It's a challenge. I strongly support succession planning, setting the bar higher, doing the best that we can do in the county, and attracting good candidates that will continue that moving forward. The last thing I'll just throw out there is there was an effort to look at performance-based pay for these positions, and worked with the state's attorney's office, and you know, there's reasons why it just doesn't work that way. So again, there's been avenues trying to make it more attractive for people, make it more attractive for high performers, but there are some legal red tape things that we have to navigate. Jenny, do you have any other clarifications you would?
Yeah, we've visited this a few times, but there's just in the statute and in the case law, you can't increase or decrease an elected official's salary during their term. So when we were talking about the, ways to try to make it performance based, you're just not prohibited or you are prohibited from changing it midstream, and that's obviously for good reasons that we can get into. Not changing, having elected officials able to move money around or change their salaries, usually words in the middle of a term. But yeah, happy to field any questions on that, but it has good aspects to it and then presents challenges as well.
I guess with that, one more, any other unique comments or questions before I ask for a vote on this? Okay. I guess with that, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor of the proposed salaries that were presented, signed by aye. Aye. Those opposed with a nay. All right, that passes. Thank you very much. Take action in the committee to look forward, trying to put some of this together, and solicit some input from some of the team members for ideas for future. With that, we do have an executive session topic. Before we do that, I want to go to public comment first. Do we have anyone for public comments? So nobody in here for that. We'll close public comment. Also, we'll cover miscellaneous before we move to executive session. So anything from miscellaneous?
Two things. I'll let committee members go first.
Committee members first for miscellaneous? Okay. Administration?
Two things, Mr. Chairman. I know I've been talking to Ms. Gross Allison about a tour of the public defender's space next month. IT is in a position where we can do that as same. So if the committee would like to see the IT space now that the remodeling project is complete, we'll be happy to schedule that around the committees next month. Second, and if you're on exec or on finance rather, you'll hear this repeated this afternoon. So just a quick update on the agenda management and voting software project. That RFP is on the street. As of, I think it was today or this morning, we had 19 vendors had downloaded the RFP. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to respond, but we do have 19 vendors that have responded. We're on schedule, so the RFPs will be due back to us on Tuesday, March 19th, and we still project to get it to you in time for a vote vote at the April county board meeting. Happy to try and answer any questions on that.
Any questions on the voting software? You have a topic?
Actually, real quick. Public promise insurance through NACO. I don't know if any of you are maybe familiar with that. We'll be learning a lot more about that here over the next few months. But they have a program that focuses on helping county employees qualify for student loan debt relief, which we believe could be a huge recruitment and retention effort for us, especially in some departments, perhaps like the state's attorney's office and things like that as well. So there are a number of counties that already participate in that program, and what this does is this helps any county employee who has been making payments for 100 or has made 120 payments or more, so about 10 years worth of student loan payments, and has a federally qualified loan. They may qualify for some debt relief. So we've had a meeting with NACO last week, and we are working through some of the implementation procedures for that. We will be bringing back a recommendation to you at the next meeting for that. There's a little bit of a time crunch for this in that I believe it's April 30th, is that right? The debt, so it's for federal loans, but some people over time may have refinanced or transferred their federal loan into a company like SoFi. They can transfer that back into a federal loan, but they have to do that by April 30th. So we want to be able to perhaps get this program up and running should the board choose to have us participate, so that any of our employees that maybe had transferred that can transfer it back into a qualifying loan that would qualify them for that. So we'll have a lot more information then.
So shouldn't the employees automatically be eligible just from the nature of their public service employment? This is a program to help connect them, or?
This helps connect to
Yeah. So it's yes and yes. You have to have, it's either public sector or nonprofit, you have to have made a minimum of 120 payments, so 10 years worth of payments on your student debt before you become eligible for that debt relief. That's one component. The second component is the current administration has also created a number of different programs that are, in fact, somewhere between 130 and 150 programs that are income eligible, where you can either get your student debt eliminated or drastically reduced. But those programs, typically it takes 4 months or more to get through the process. The failure rate is over 50% first try because the applications are very difficult to complete the first time accurately and correctly. What this component of NACO Edges or NACO Public Promise Insurance does is that they've partnered with a third-party vendor that consolidates all of it. You put your information in once. It does a search of which of those federal programs you're eligible for, and then provides you with the information to go through that process. They've reduced the time from 4 months to 4 weeks. They've increased the success rate first attempt from less than 50% to over 90%. Hennepin County, Minnesota, which is Minneapolis, was the pilot county, obviously a lot bigger than us, but they saw in the first 4 weeks that the program was up and running for both components, that they had over 500 of their employees take advantage, and those employees will realize over $12.5 million of student loan debt relief. That obviously goes back into their pockets, which can either be saved or put back into the local economy.
So the service essentially eases the process for the employee when applying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. What we'll come back for you for an approval on is there's a tiered concierge service for the employee. It's one time annually. The highest level of service that gets you all the possible benefits is $150 per employee. Hennepin made the decision that they would fund that on behalf of their employees. We're likely to recommend the same. looking at what our likely numbers are. If we had everybody that likely has student debt participate, which not everybody will, but we hope they will, it'd be roughly a $30,000 outlay for us to provide that concierge service on behalf of the employee versus the employee paying that themselves.
Do those 120 payments have to be at the when they were employed at the county, or just over
Any
time?
local unit of any unit of government or nonprofit.
nonprofit.
Yep.
Look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you for that update.
And just a real quick update on the health plan RFP process. I know, thank you very much. Many of you sat through our educational sessions. I think it was over the summer or early fall. We have had 3 meetings. Our 4th one is tomorrow with the newly formed Health Insurance Advisory Committee. So we have 1 representative from each of our bargaining units, and then also a scattering of non-department head level employees throughout the organization. So we have a really good mix. Chairman Chairman Bricker is on that committee, as well as myself and Angela are staffing that committee. So we, like I said, we've had 3 meetings. We're having our 4th tomorrow. We have been working through the RFP process, and those RFPs will go on the street, if not tomorrow, Thursday or Friday. So we're just finishing up compiling everything. So they will be out on BidNet, which is our standard process, and then any vendor that needs, we have our protected health information. We don't post that on the internet, obviously. But any vendors that want that additional information to help prepare their quotes, they'll submit back a business associate agreement for us, and then we'll release that to them once we have that signed document back from them. So we have a very detailed process to be able to get them the information they need. The RFP due date is April 18th at 10 a.m., and then we will start evaluating those programs. We also put some notices within the RFP process that says that this is just one step of us gathering additional information. We are going to reach out to the state of Illinois for their local government health plan option to get a quote on that. We have the IPBC is interested in providing us some additional quotes, so we're looking at some other options after talking to the state's attorney's office that we can also evaluate, and we'll be doing that at the same time as the RFP, so that we're keeping everything on the same level playing field. So those will go out this week and come back in mid-April. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those on next day or offline. So.
Thank you for that update. One more round for miscellaneous? Okay. Now I need a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of labor relations. Mr. Elsasser and Dr. Blair is the second. All in favor, please sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay. Give it a minute. Go into session.